Welcome everyone to this episode of Breath of Life Conversations. I have to admit, I am a little nervous. Why am I a little nervous? Because my next guest is somebody that I've been trying to get on my podcast before this was even like a kind of legitimate thing. When it was only put out on YouTube and I was just learning my podcasting trade. God, I, I can't even really say that. I'm still learning. Let's be honest. But I have ultimately, like, I have wanted to have this guest on for a really long time because she is somebody who has taught me. I openly and gladly call her a mentor of mine. And she's really truly at the cutting edge of what I would consider intuitive knowledge. So when I say that this individual is somebody who I deeply admire and respect, I I truly and honestly mean that. Now, I will also say that even though I say that, does not mean that I agree with absolutely everything that, she says, which I think is just normal. I think that's just normal. But I find that the people who I respect and admire so deeply, whether they've been my teachers, my mentors, whomever, are people who are truly deep in a belief. And one of the things that this individual truly believes in is the power of intuition and the power of energy work and its healing and what it can do. And so please let me introduce you to Sonia G. Okay. She is, she is, she I don't even think I can say formerly known as she's still known as the Queen of the Astral Planes. She has really pioneered what it means to go beyond the 5D. We're going to talk about that. And truly has just delved real deep and is one of, like I said before, a pioneer and a revolutionary when it comes to intuitive knowledge. And we're going to talk about some of the new things that exist inside of this world because let's be honest, we're well beyond just the main seven chakras, and we're well beyond mindfulness meditation. This is stuff that I've been saying forever. And here is actually somebody who says, and here is what's next, and is actually somebody who is downloading and receiving what is next. So please welcome Miss Sonia G. All right. Well, I did an intro already, but I do want to like just tell you that I said in the intro that I'm quite nervous for this because I have been wanting to have you on my podcast for so long. And I've obviously like everything works out in its own time, and this is kind of perfect because I've always talked about how I'm so sick and tired of the intuitive community and the spiritual community and the energy working community being like, yay, we're forward facing and we're trying to be the pioneers of things. And yet we're still talking about 3D to 4D to 5D. And we're still talking about the main seven chakras. And we're still talking about mindful meditation, which, and I tell people, don't get me wrong, they have a place. But why is it that
Also, yeah.
I have not been just doing those things? I've literally, for the past, I don't even know when I started following you, but like because it's been that long. Um,
Yeah, it's been a few years. Yeah.
I was like, I haven't just been stuck there for years. So can we start off with just us getting like your feelings on this? Because clearly I have some disdain.
All right, we're coming in hot. We are coming in hot. I love it. Can we, as we begin, we just set an intention for
Absolutely, please.
I have a candle. I did the thing, but let's just take a breath together. And I like to start with precision. So
course.
Big breath in. And I really want to set a powerful intention for our time today to be a profound experience for everyone that is called to listen, for the shifts to be inevitable in the words that are spoken, for the frequency to be pure, pristine, and so crystalline that it vibrates and reverberates in the way that it's meant to clear any distorted fields from anyone ever listening to this conversation. We are doing this in highest and best, in full source light, in a way that is of service to the planet and in the life giving, soul expanded consciousness way. This is
Yeah.
really my intention. And so it
Yes.
is.
And so it is.
Yes. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
You know what, this is another reason, guys, for why I have her on my podcast, because you guys don't see what I do on like the back end, but you guys just got to see it. Like,
Yes,
like
it's out.
I do a whole like prep thing prior.
You
And
know what?
you guys,
Let's start.
you
Yeah.
guys just got to see essentially, because the other thing, you guys, if you don't already know, and you will obviously if you're listening to this, because I've said it, she is my mentor. And I like gladly say that, which and people who know me know I don't have very many mentors for a reason. And so you get so funny because you guys literally like what she does is literally what I do.
Let's
If you guys
start
were
there. I
wondering.
love this. See, we're in the alignment, in the divine flow, because it's so important. And maybe we do start here because so much of this is the alchemy behind the scenes, right? People see you, your people, like the your clients that work with you, and like everybody that does, and they don't see sometimes how much conscious work it is, or intentional work it is behind the scenes, or everything that we do for ourselves to hold that frequency in order to be able to hold the container, the transmission, the teaching, and actually broadcast it, actually teach things and shift realities. And it's like, why is it so easy for her? It's because she's done the work. It's because it has added up, not because you just show up and you're like, oh, let's just go with the flow, right? That's where we all get confused and disorganized, and clarity when it comes to spirituality is the name of the game. I want to say name of the game, but I say it lightly because it's a consciousness game, but really it's the infinite progression of the soul. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let me answer your question. So
Wait.
wait, let's go back to the question. We're starting at the beginning of, tell me your question again about the seven chakras.
So how do you feel about people here now in 2025? And you have been doing this work a lot longer than I have,
Mhm.
but how do you feel about us being in this time now, having seen and downloaded so much new stuff, new technologies, and people are still
Yeah,
utilizing what I like to use the analogy is like the very first iPhone when
correct.
we're
Very well put.
16, versions in.
Yeah. Okay. So there's different ways to look at this. And I'm going to answer it this way. Everyone has their own divine timing. Everyone has their own fail-safe mechanisms in the progression that we're here for in this human life moment. And I believe that the majority of the people got complacent and comfortable in systems that have been so well structured and so well known. And so because that is a system of that's coherent and it's functional and it's been known, then it's what feels like, oh, this is the thing to do. And for a long time, it was very innovative. The seven chakras coming from the Eastern consciousness into the Western world, like the cultural immersion that happened in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, like that was an explosion of consciousness. And so much of it came in, and everything was like, so for the majority of people, that's where the new age kind of started. And that's the framework. Kind of like we started this calendar of 12 months 2000 years ago, and we're still doing it like that. Kind of like astrology and astrological software is anchored into a calendar that's 2000 years old, because that is what we've known. That's what all the softwares are programmed to. But if you actually look up at the sky, planets and constellations and moons are not where the software says. But for a lot of people, it's really hard to compute because this is what you're used to. So in a different way of saying it, right? It's like childhood beliefs and programming. So for some people, it takes time to do the inner work to rewire the things of, hey, I can grow out of the confines and the stories of my bloodline. I can grow out of, my parents believed this way, but that doesn't mean I have to believe this way, right? And you start kind of untangling beliefs, and then you become your own person. We are now doing that in society, in a society sense. So we're untangling ourselves from all of these society systems and beliefs that were set for us some thousands, of years ago. And we're now questioning it, and we're saying, and for some people, it's like an existential crisis because it's like, oh my gosh, everything that I've known. So I I look at it with a lot of compassion in that sense. At the same time, I feel like everyone fucking knows when they're lying to themselves about something. And so, for a lot of people, they're staying in the comfort of what they've known. And because it makes you cool to know something and to be good at something. And now you've understood it. And, and so we're all of a sudden cycling the same thing in the new age. I'm going to kind of, say in
Yeah.
new age spirituality. I'm going to put it all together, just like we were when we were telling the stories of, well, my parents this, and I grew up like this, and I had it bad like this, right? So we're doing the same thing now because that's just what we know. I am this way because of this, and that's just how I am. And this is just what I practice, and this is just what I do. When instead, I believe everybody inside knows that that's outgrown. It's just that they don't want to put forth the mental power and the courage to learn something different, because getting uncomfortable is how we grow. And for a lot of people, it's like they're so exhausted, and they're exhausted because of all of the things of the world, right? And I'm sure we're going to get to this conversation, but it's always about holding your energy in sovereignty. Like there's a point at which everyone says, enough. This is not working. Manifestation isn't working. These things are not leading me anywhere, right? Like it's like these moon cycles aren't like working anymore. Like there's a level. And so we just keep on ascending in consciousness. We keep on going higher and higher. And we get to ask ourselves these questions. And so as we ask and as we move forward, as we integrate a concept, new layers open up. And it's our responsibility as beings that are alive and conscious on this planet to keep exploring, right? Otherwise, we'd still be in, the ancient days and the medieval days, but our soul wants to grow. And so that is our job and our responsibility. Otherwise, then people feel disconnected and they feel depressed and they feel, discontent. And there's all of these other distractions in the world that keep you in that loop instead of looking inside and being like, you know what, my soul wants fucking more. I'm gonna go get it. Like, Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, it's that sovereignty piece of, you reach this threshold where you are butting up against, okay, so how do I either regain my power back, or how do I call my power back, and how do I live the life that I want? And how do I break free of all of the things that everybody, society or government or whomever says that I have to do, right? And the whomever could be the astrologers, it could be, the human design people, whomever, right? Saying, well, this is the way that it's supposed to be because this is what it says. But one of the things that I greatly appreciate and love about you is that you say break free of those traditions. It's not that they don't have a place, and I never feel like you're disrespecting them by telling people to move away from them or to go outside of them or to find another way to interpret them, but simply telling people, you know what, if you are looking at your world right now and nothing is working and shit's not going the way you want and you
Time to
can't
level
do it.
up.
Exactly. It's like, well, then how about we just follow logic and we just say there's somewhere where your power is being given away. So how about we bring that back and we then find a different way to do this? Because if it's not working for you, then it's not working for you.
It all adds up. Yeah, it's very evident. And we are moving into a world that's more where, people say the veil is thinner, right? Between like frequency and manifested reality. We don't have so much of a delay anymore where there's like a buffer. Now it's like who you are and what you hold inside. If you have contempt inside, if you hold anger inside, and even though you pretend, right, to look happy and to be happy, you're going to manifest circumstances of arguments. You're going to manifest people that are in contention with you, even though you're acting nice. But on the inside, this is what you hold. You hold judgment, you will be judged. You hold anger, you'll find angry conversations, right? There is no more delay in this. And so I think, people are starting to really be like, okay, something has to change. Like you were saying, when you're not listening to your intuition, at some point the logic will show you. And one of the ways that my mentor Gary would say it, which I studied with him, we're talking 2007, like dates, back in the days. But he would always say, if you don't understand the lesson that is meant for you to be learned from the challenges in this level of perception, in this level of consciousness, he would say, don't worry about it. It will come back around up here and it will be bigger and greater so you don't miss it. And it will continue to compound. Right? And like at some point, you will wake up because it will hit you like a 2x4 in the head. And then you have to deal with it. And for a lot of people, what that means is health that depletes, heartbreaks, circumstances that just awake because there is no other way but for you to drop to your knees and ask some serious questions, right? When everything gets taken away, then you have to look at it. But because we are conscious humans and we are even with a basic understanding of spirituality, it's like we understand that we can either move from pain or we can move from love. And so when we choose to grow out of choice, then all of the crazy things and wild things and heartbreaking things don't need to happen. That being said, we're all having a human experience. And so those things do happen when we don't listen to something at every level, right? And I am first on the list with those things when we don't actually get in true alignment with our purpose for being on the planet. This is what I was saying. We have fail safe. So there will be events and circumstances that happen to point our attention in that direction. And, your higher self will whisper it once, we'll yell it, the second time, then we'll smack you the third, and so on until it's like, okay, you really got to get this. So,
As somebody who is at the forefront of bringing in the new technologies, I don't feel like, correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't feel like, because, and I should clarify, I'm saying this because I feel like this is me as well. And so I feel like I can say it for you. It's like we don't have the luxury of waiting for somebody to tell us that we're right. We just have to, go real deep. We have to stay in alignment. We have to stay in connection and believe that what we're getting and the information that we're receiving is for us and because of our missions in life, that this information is right for a lot of people, not just for us. And I know that there are a lot of individuals who will come to me who will say, I just don't know how you do it. I don't know how you
Mm.
can stand at the edge of the world and shoot an arrow and just say, I wonder what it'll hit. And then go and see with no one in front of you. And I tell people, for me, my mission is to r- revolutionize the healthcare industry and to completely blow it out of the water. But
So excited for that.
but I also know that on some level, like I have my over 2 decades worth of science background and a decade worth of working at bedside to show me what not to, like where not to look. Like in a true scientist fashion, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stand, I'm gonna shoot that arrow, and then I'm gonna go and look and I'm gonna say, prove me wrong. Like I'm gonna make this hypothesis and then I'm gonna be like, okay, now prove me wrong, right? And I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look and I'm gonna use critical thinking and discernment and my intuition, absolutely, especially because of the work that I'm working in. But behind me, I have all of these years of where I'm like, modern medicine like did this, all of this shit, and it doesn't work. So I feel a little bit more confident in the new stuff I pull. And I'm curious, as somebody who is literally at the forefront of what many people would and still say is a little bit out there, a little bit weird, whatever sort
Yeah.
of terminology they want to use, even though we know that they secretly believe and know that there's different
They
stuff out there,
know. They know.
right? They
Just in the
know.
closet. Yeah.
Absolutely. How do you find that trust in yourself and what you're pulling? And I will talk about too some of the new stuff that you've been bringing on. I want to talk
But
about
this
that.
is very important, and I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just like you said, you have studied, you have degrees, you know the science, you know the medicine, very often we learn based on the knowledge that we have available on the planet plus what has not worked, right? And so then we acquire skills. Everyone, any doctor, any neurosurgeon, molecular biologist, people that have studied deeply, right? It's not that you just wake up and you become a rocket scientist or a neuroscientist. Like, it takes time, and you build your knowledge and you build it and you build it and you build it, and there's evidence. You start from belief, and then you test, and then you shift into this. There's evidence that it works, and then you know it. And when you know it, you have like proof of concept, you have a living experience. We are our own, guinea pig in a sense, right?
Yes.
So does it work on us? Is there evidence that it works on somebody that trusts me? And you start to really build a framework, an architecture that is so solid, right? And so it starts with belief systems, and then it becomes proof and knowledge. And so it took me years, to actually do the baby steps, because if your ladder is not strong, if it's not built on no, if it's built on, well, maybe kind of going with the flow, I think, and I believe that, right? Like, that's the beginning. But if you don't solidify your basement, if you don't actually build the framework of the house that you want to build, at some point any wind can come and it will crumble. right? And so
Yeah.
it will take you down. And this is what happens very often with religion, for example. People just, go into this framework and then one thing, because they kind of are just like, maybe they inherited it, maybe it's easy, and religion works well for many people. But at some point, what happens is some people question something, they hear something, and it makes everything else crumble because they kind of took it on as a whole ball of, this is how it is. This is the package, right? But if you don't build it for yourself, if you don't know every piece of it, and then there's some people that, go through, even with religion, with every system, you have to go in and know your shit. If you don't know your shit's gonna crumble. Like it's just what it is. And so, initially, when I first started talking about angels and archangels and the 13 chakras, which was like unheard of, in 2017, the
In
I there,
2025, some people are still
some
saying it's
people are
unheard of.
still, and we're like way beyond this, right? But
Way
there's
beyond it.
definitely, we definitely have got to integrate 13 by now. But and we can talk about this. But the way that you do it, right? There's a moment. People call it the awakening, right? There's awakening, there's ascension, and then there's embodiment. And in the awakening phase is when you realize that so many things have been lies and there's something greater and your soul is here for something bigger, and everything crumbles, and then you realize, you do that inner work and you forgiveness, and it wasn't your parents' fault and they did the best that they could. You get to be your own person, right? Anyways, like it's almost like the 12 steps and like AA in a sense. Like there's different processes. This is, self-development work. When we go through those phases and everything kind of crumbles, and then you rebuild yourself. When you rebuild yourself, you start literally ascending through layers of your consciousness. This is when you test new theories, but it's not that you haven't had instruction, knowledge, and everything before. And then based on all of that, which very often comes from challenges even in childhood. For me, the level of spirituality, I mean, it was like built in for me because I was born into a family that had, belonged to two different religions in a Catholic state where I was treated like I was the devil because of my parents' choice. And I was always confused about God and all of these things. So for me, it was an existential, like, it, I needed to understand these things and I dug into them since I was a kid. And so by the time you live and you experience life and you acquire and you go to, I went to college and I had a business degree and then I worked in corporate America and I traveled and you experience the world, like, and you have these experiences and everything sets you up, right? If you start to listen and you start to develop your intuition, everything adds up. Everything sets you up for that moment where you actually have the tower moment, the crumbling point where you're like, oh my gosh, this has to change enough. Something has to change. In that moment, you start to build. And so you have evidence of what works and what doesn't. And you just have to start rebuilding it, right? As you rebuild it, you become stronger. There's evidence. There's you double check that your intuition is right, that what you see is right. There's proof. There's people that have healings and then it happens again. And, at the beginning of when I started this work and I was taking clients one-on-one, I would always say like, I don't know, let's see if we can. I can't tell you, but I am willing to help you and let's see what we can do for you, right? And then I realized like, holy shit, this is very real. I can do this and I can do that. After, years of this, it became okay, this is what I can offer. And I feel like this is very important to our world, my community, our society, right? And so you overcome your fear of staying in the closet and you're like, people need to know that this is available, that there is more. And ultimately, as we go out there, we have our parameters. Like I am when I explore, new consciousness, or that I'm at the edge of what is available. And then you kind of, you look out, and you have to go deeper within yourself in order to look out even bigger. And then it's like you have these parameters, and you make sure the energy is clear, you make sure your space is clear, you make sure you're in ultimate alignment, that you're crystal clear on your intentions, that your space is safe. Like, there are things, and then you also have so much experience, right? So when you go and explore consciousness in a different system, in a different planet, in a different galaxy, you're not doing it because you have some hallucinogen medicine that's kicking you out of your body, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, having a floating experience. But you're actually very consciously, very intentionally, and with much focus, acquiring knowledge that hasn't been able to fit in your consciousness, and that you are rediscovering as a part of you, as a part of unity consciousness, as a part of your own self. And so it's very different than having these, kind of expansive experiences that sometimes leave you with like, yeah, there's something else, but I don't know what. Right. And we have the ability to grab it and to structure it. And then also, it is within our job and our mission. So this is some of us are meant
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it may be when you know that, when you're absolutely like in tune with that truth, it makes it harder to doubt it of
Yeah.
what you're
It's
pulling. When you're like, I can't go to Google and I can't ask ChatGPT if you know what I mean. I can't ask any AI whether or not what I've just gotten and received is real. You
right.
just are relying on all of what you were just talking about. You're testing it on yourself. You're testing it on other people. You're saying, this is, and you bring up a good point of saying like, you've got all of these thousands of years worth of knowledge already written down in books that's well documented that people just collectively say, yep, we agree, seven chakras, right? So, you being able to say, okay, great, seven, but like, did God really stop there? I have a hard time
Yeah. What
believing he would have
else?
stopped there.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
else? It's
yeah.
kind of like, we were working with black and white TV, and somebody had to go and think bigger and be like, but what if we can also broadcast color, right? And landlines. What if we can also communicate instead of through hard wires, through air signals? And then we had Wi-Fi, like we had towers, and there was phone, like cell phones, and now there's Wi-Fi. It is the evolution of what we're capable of doing. So we have to ask ourselves these questions, especially because for everybody that's in the body working with their seven chakras, if they understand the seven chakras correctly, they understand that their root chakra connects and is a portal to the consciousness of the earth, right? Like that's your grounding. And especially when Kundalini rises up, which is the baseline of the seven chakras and the work, right? Once the chakras unify, so they're not held in separation anymore, but they unify in a chakra pillar, as I call it, they open the crown, right? This is the big enlightening and the illumination, but it opens. What does it open to? Let's ask ourselves these questions. Where do you go after that? What is possible after that? Because that was the goal for a really long time, just like black and white TV was the goal for a really long time. But what happens after that? Right? So, I mean, if we want this world to evolve, we get to evolve. We are, anytime we see, and the technology parallel is such a great example, because every time we see advancements in technology and in knowledge, it also means that us as spirit, our souls inside of our physical body, which is the most incredible intelligence network that we could literally possess. Like our body, our temple is our most valuable possession on this planet. And I don't think a lot of people, like while we get to experience life on this planet, what we are doing is we're reawakening our divine circuitry inside of the body. And anytime we see systems, intelligence systems like rising on the planet, we are capable of doing so much more if we don't give away our power, if we utilize technology to support instead of giving it away. and stopping the focus, stopping the meditation because ChatGPT has an answer. That's not it. ChatGPT will only ever mirror your consciousness. So you will only ever get like answers at your level of consciousness, which is why some people, where I know see you going like this, I'm opening this parentheses because this is important. Some people are like, oh my gosh, it's the devil. I'm like, well, what does that say about you? Some people are like, you know, it's like so mean to me. I'm like, well, what does that mean about you? Because you are teaching, right? And then some people are like, oh my gosh, it's like God sent. Like I get so many like cool facts and, it's so helpful with the recipe, whatever. Like I think it's great to utilize in a way that supports you, but it is not you. It is a mirror of what you actually feed into it. So, use it wisely, use protection, like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's interesting. I tell a lot of people, people are dirty. Just wrap it
You
up,
need
wrap
spiritual
yourself
hygiene.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people are dirty. So whether you're having sex with somebody, wrap it up. If you are in somebody's energy, if you go outside, I've stopped telling people to like protect their energy just like during like high impact times, right? I just say if you have any plans on going outside of your house, wrap it up. Like, because people are dirty and they're clingy and they don't know what they're doing. It's not necessarily always malicious. It's just how people can be sometimes. And that idea of you have to be aware of how you're interacting with these things, with people, with the technology. It's not People think it's way more profound than it is, and I'm like, no, the truly profound shit is like when you go come do a meditation with me or come do a meditation with my mentors, because that's where the truly profound stuff is. It's not going on your computer and asking ChatGPT what
Yeah.
the
And it's
next
only
layer is.
I mean, I believe my personal and like not very popular opinion is that ChatGPT is actually bringing about a next layer of awakening because people dare to ask questions to an artificial system instead of asking other humans, which is really interesting. But
Yes.
I believe that a lot of people dare to ask certain things because it's almost like they don't know if it's real, they don't know if it's a game, right? Like that. And so I do believe a lot more people are awakening because they get to start asking questions. Now, my hope for all of this and where I see it, this serve is people at some point will need to question it for themselves, right? Heart and mind and human spirit and soul consciousness versus artificial systems. It's like, so if something is like, oh, this and this and this, right? Then go and double check it. But you are your own source of sovereign knowledge, power, purpose, field. Everything that you manifest that gets created in your reality. Manifesting simply means whatever you have inside, it shows up on the outside of, in the physical world. So whatever is whatever comes from outside in, whatever comes from any source that is not you in your internal wisdom or higher consciousness or heart or intuition or experience, everything that comes from outside in, check it. Check it against your filters, right? Like, get your settings on. It's like, is this true for me? Is it not? Like, have some filters for what you intake. And this is the same thing that you were saying when you walk out of your house, right? Sometimes also when you're in your house, because people that leave TVs on, they don't know, right? Like the air gets programmed, and sometimes it's not so good because it's a 5 o'clock news, and that's a broadcast that goes in the air, and you breathe that air and you share that air, and it's all consciousness, it's all alive, right? And so the nuances get interesting, and we don't say this to make it like weird or crazy. It's just to become conscious because your energy interacts. Your field, your magnetic field, which comes from your heart, and your electrical field, which comes from your brain, okay, which are measured in the electrocardiograms and all of the medical technology. Like, this is not something that we're just saying. Like, these are measurable fields. This is what emanates out of us and interacts. It expands outside of the body. Therefore, we have interactions with others in our auric field, right? However you want to call it, in our magnetic field. But there's an exchange. And so when you walk around, even in your house or whatever, if your field isn't super sovereign and so grounded and so connected, that automatically, because this is what happens once you really, get set and doing your work, you know who you are, you know what you stand for, you know your beliefs, you know your principles, your values, like, and you know how to hold your sovereignty because so much of you is conscious. Then your field is so coherent that reality automatically reorganizes around your heart signal and your brain signal. They work together, like, and so everything shifts. But in a way, it's so important to be aware of this field. And at first, you have to put on a protection because you're not really aware of these things, right? So until you're super solid, you want to be like, okay, let's actually wrap myself in that bubble, wrap myself in white light and gold light, right? I used to say, like, paint a bucket of golden light on you, just like feel that, so that it actually, and it's positive in, positive out. We're not shutting ourselves out from society, but we also don't want to put all of our judgments out there. We want to send them back to source light to be transmuted into something greater, right? We don't want to pick up other people's judgment and anger and bad juju. We don't want to give our bad juju to people. Like, same thing. It's like, let's be clean, and hygiene, spiritual hygiene. Yeah.
Spiritual hygiene. Yes. Energetic hygiene.
Yeah. And then you
I
feel a
love.
lot better, especially because a lot of light workers, a lot of sensitive soul, a lot of people that are working already with chakras, with, like Reiki practitioners, energy practitioners, like, and people that generally are like big-hearted souls, I'm going to say it like that. They are very empathic. And so automatically they pick up all sorts of other people's shit. And so that's especially important for them. Yeah.
This, of course, then I feel like brings us to what I'm sure everybody since the beginning of this conversation has been wondering, because I said new technology. I really, really, really want to talk about the new
Okay.
stuff that you have been bringing in. And
Mhm.
I have been diligently testing it for myself. All right, y'all. It is one of those episodes where we are going to take a pause, come back tomorrow, and listen to the final piece of this beautiful conversation. See you next time.